Well, good news is on the way if you are a New Jersey resident of a nursing home, because they have now started vaccinating people that are nursing home residents. This is a continuation of the vaccinations of frontline workers in the state of New Jersey. Joining us on the line right now, somebody that knows the state of New Jersey better than anybody, PBS anchor and the author of the book Lessons in Leadership, Steve Adubato. Steve, what's happening? What is Governor Murphy saying with respect to vaccinations?
Well, first of all, good morning, Frank. I'm impressed that you do this show all night into the morning and inform people about what they need to know. So, excuse me, let me just say that these vaccinations are a big deal. It's a very big deal that people in nursing homes are getting these vaccinations. I will say that it's important to see how people react. It's important to see that those healthcare workers are right there, the medical professionals are right there in case there are any reactions. But I would also say that is a week late. Now, look, in the scheme of things, it's still amazing that these vaccines are available, but New Jersey's a week late in being able to do this because, very simply put, the Murphy administration through the Department of Health, quote, missed a deadline with the federal government in order to get these vaccines started last Monday. But we can live with that. But when it's this big a deal and it's life and death and you're protecting people, you don't miss deadlines. You don't screw up on paperwork. You get it done. It's starting now. We'll see what happens. It's a big development.
And if people are just tuning in at 5:50, we're talking with Mr. New Jersey, Steve Adubato, a man who knows more about New Jersey than anybody. A lot of people wondering the impact of the federal COVID stimulus on New Jersey. Still uncertain whether people are going to get $600 each if they earn less than $75,000 or $2,000 each if they're earning less than $75,000. A lot of criticism of the pork that's in this particular COVID stimulus bill. What have you seen as it relates to what's affecting New Jersey, Steve, and what's your take in terms of the actual stimulus legislation?
First of all, I really don't get why there was this kind of drama connected to this, why, frankly, President Trump, who ultimately signed this, who was not that engaged and involved in the process of negotiating. He had Steve Mnuchin, his Treasury Secretary, negotiating for him. They reached an agreement, Frank. They reached an agreement that they were going to do this number. I do believe the number should be closer to $2,000. I believe the president's right about that. But you don't wait to the point where people miss on the unemployment, and they're going to miss that week. That's not a good thing. Now, in terms of pork, Frank, we're talking Congress, pork. My God, geez, what an original concept.
Right, more pork than Oscar Mayer.
Yeah, but as a former state legislator in New Jersey, it always bothered me that in order to get things passed, you had to find ways with individual legislators or members of Congress to help people in their district. Now, one man's pork or one woman's pork, if you will, in Congress is somebody else's necessary program. So who really knows? But I would just say this. This was never going to pass if that so-called pork was not in there, because right now you have Democrats and Republicans, right? And by the way, the vote I imagine today is going to be in the Senate. There has to be enough pork in there or supportive programs for members of the United States Senate to go along with this, because the Republicans, I believe, if it gets stopped and there isn't going to be a $2,000 check that comes to people, I believe it's going to be Mitch McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate that stop it.
Well, pretty interesting, Steve. In terms of where things are headed with the other big piece of legislation, if people are just tuning in, we're talking with Steve Adubato. You could check out his book, Lessons in Leadership. You could see him regularly on PBS. I was watching you this weekend, Steve. Always an interesting show, not being slowed down by the pandemic in the least. But the other thing that's pretty controversial coming out of Washington is the National Defense Authorization Act. The president vetoed this because, in his words, there was nothing done about the Section 230 provision for the big tech companies. It looks like the House has voted to override the veto. Where do things stand in the Senate?
Well, first of all, I don't think the president's wrong about protecting those companies. The problem is there are too many members of the military who are dependent upon how this plays out. I do actually believe, and this is going to be fascinating, that the president is going to be overridden, I believe, in his veto in the Senate. I believe Democrats and Republicans will come together. Not a lot of bipartisanship, Frank, and I don't believe there's going to be a lot moving forward in the Biden administration. But on this one, I do believe they're going to override him because there are too many members of the military that need that to happen. And the president, in my opinion, picked the wrong fight. I believe he's correct, but this was not the place to veto that Defense Act.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting. What's coming up on Think Tank and on all the various other Steve Adubato programs that people in our area can watch?
Well, you can check us out on WNET in New York and NJTV over in New Jersey, and also News 12 Plus in both states. This weekend, we continue our series, Democracy at a Crossroads, continue to interview members of the United States Congress and our delegation, and also a new series we're kicking off, Frank. We started off talking about the nursing homes, or a new series on the COVID vaccine, quote, what you need to know. So much confusion, Frank. So many people think, is this going to help with the new strain? It's only going to be good for this long. What could be the allergic reaction? Can I get it again? All kinds of things. We're going to kick off a new series on vaccines. Not for or against. To me, I'm going to take it when my time comes, Frank. But I would say this. We have to deal with that confusion, those questions, and you have to do it, not politics. It's about science. That's a new series on the vaccine.
All right, Steve Adubato, we're going to be keeping an eye on that. Thank you very much, my friend. Happy New Year.
Same to you, Frank. All the best to you and your family and the WABC family.
Thank you, my friend. Steve Adubato, check him out there on PBS.